Hey, my name is Jonathan Clark, also known as DJ Bolivia. Thanks for watching. Today's tutorial is going to be a relatively simple one, teaching you how to do remote recording. And so this would be appropriate if you're working with an artist who's in a different location than you can't physically get together for recording. So, like say, as an example, let's say you're in a band in university. Everyone in the band graduates, moves to different cities, but you still want to do some recording projects together. So you can kind of network and have one person, that's working as the producer with all the gear, the audio editing software, stuff like that. And then the other people in the band can record remotely using portable voice recorders, maybe microphones if you've got them, but it doesn't have to be that fancy necessarily. And so then you can share all the audio files with Dropbox, and then the one person that's got the audio editing equipment can piece everything together. Okay, so you can do this with microphones, get some, recording is not that difficult. If you can learn to play an instrument well, you can probably learn how to, use Audacity and record with a microphone. Do it that way. But let's focus on something even a little bit more simple, handheld audio recorders. And so I'm going to look at a couple of recorders today, and then we'll set one up and we'll do an example demo of how you would set up for recording, and then we'll plug it into some basic software that, Audacity. It's free, it'll work on Macs, it'll work on PCs, and just about everybody has access to a laptop. So you can bring your file from your recording into Audacity, just take a quick look at it, make sure that you're not distorted, the signal level is good, and then you just share that with Dropbox or some sort of similar service. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of audio recorders first. Okay, so our first recorder is the H1 by Zoom, and this is a very basic recorder. It's probably priced at around $100 US. It's battery powered, uses a AA battery. It's got some switches on the back for low cut, on or off, auto levels, on or off, and recording format, either WAV or MP3. And that's pretty standard for these type of recorders. It's got a line out 1/8 inch jack, and it's got a line in for external microphones. It's got microphones up at the top here for recording the room noise. A control on the front, some fast forward, start, stop, pause, that sort of stuff on this side. Now this recorder is, I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a great quality recorder. It will record in WAV quality, which is 16-bit and 44/100 Hertz for a sample rate. So that's pretty good quality. But the thing is, this is more of a, I wouldn't use this as my first choice on if you're doing studio recording work that's going to be in a production for radio or something like that. This is maybe a little bit more suited to recording someone in a meeting or in a classroom, taking notes, stuff like that. Like if you want to make notes to yourself, or you're just recording something that's happening wherever you are, this will work fine for that. But we can look at some slightly better quality recorders, which unfortunately, of course, are more expensive, but that's the price you pay for quality. Looking at our second recorder, we have the DR60D by Tascam. Now this is a bit of a high-end recorder, and this one I use, it's got a little mount here that you can put on top of a tripod, and then you could mount a camera on top. And so I tend to use this one a lot when I'm doing video projects, and I just have it mounted right beside the camera, underneath the camera. And this one will take external microphones through things like XLR cords or 1/8 inch standard plugs. Oh, sorry, 1/4 inch standard plugs. And so it's got lots of controls, lots of options, lots of storage. Basically, yeah, this is a pretty good high-end one. Now this one does have external microphones built into it, but it's not really, I look at it more as a part of a separate microphone system. Okay, so the third portable audio recorder I'm going to look at is the PCMM10 by Sony. And this one I like. It's quite portable. It's good quality. We have, on the back, we have record level setting for manual or auto. And we have sensitivity of the microphone, high or low. We have a volume control. This one uses a couple AA batteries. On the sides we have power input, and I will point out too, If you have a recorder that will plug into household power, I recommend not doing that when you're recording. You're usually better off using batteries for recording someone, because sometimes when you're plugged into household power, you'll get some line level noise, and it just shows up as noise in the background of the recording, so maybe not as clean a recording as you'd prefer. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. And then I would stick to just using the supplied household power for when you're playing with it, you know, after the recording's done, stuff like that. So this one hooks up by USB like the others. It's got line in and line out settings, and it's got a record level volume. It has start, stop, forward, that sort of stuff, pause, record, and it's got a pretty extensive menu when it's turned on. We can turn it on, and you know, there's a lot of different functions that you can get to through this menu. It's a lot more complex than the H1 is. And also useful with this one is there's lights that come on here for each channel, green when you're recording, and a red one will show up if you temporarily go over the 0 decibel level, which means that you're peaking, you're distorting your recording. Okay, so that's pretty basic. What else can I tell you about this? This one has condenser microphones in it, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. Yeah, so let's just go right over and set this one up, and we'll do a test recording, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a few minutes. Now, before we set this up, I want to show you quickly how to record with this particular audio recorder. It'll be different depending on what you use for a model, but for this one, for this Sony one, what you do is you hold down the record, tap pause. That arms it for recording, although it's not recording yet. I'll have to press the play to eventually get it to record. And okay, so you can see right now no green lights are showing up unless I raise my voice. So what happens is those green lights come on when your minimum signal level is about where the recorder wants it. Now, if I turn the record input level up quite a bit, now it's showing me the green lights all the time while I'm talking. But if I talk too loud, now we're getting reds. And so those reds, when the reds come on, that's a sign of distortion. So you're too high. So let's back it off a little bit. Test, test, too loud. Test, test, test. Okay, so now I have it at a setting where the red lights aren't coming on, and you never ever want to distort. And at this point, I can press play to start recording, and my voice will be recorded as I'm talking. And then when I'm done, just press stop. Now, something I should point out right now, I won't go into a lot of detail about this, but with recording, the levels are given in decibels usually. And the thing is, it doesn't start at 0 decibels and go up to higher numbers as you get louder. Decibels in a recording environment are interesting because what they do is they start out at a negative number, something low, like negative 96, negative 72, something like that. And as you get louder, the numbers come up, so they're less negative. They're coming up closer to 0. And if you ever get to the point where you hit 0 or exceed 0, that's when you have a problem. That's when things turn to distortion. You're clipping or you're peaking, depending on what phrases you like to use. So I have another video that's very in-depth about how that all works in my audio recording series. I'll put a link to that at the bottom of the screen right now. You might want to look into that eventually for a proper explanation, although it's kind of technical. But the main thing that you need to know is that you want to set your recording. It doesn't matter if you're a little bit low most of the time. In fact, most people, when they're recording instruments and stuff like that, they may want to have it at, say negative 15 to negative 10, negative 12 to negative 8, in that range, because whatever you do, you don't want to ever exceed 0. So if you've got something playing at a volume that varies a little bit, if it's kind of floating around negative 10, negative 12, negative 8, and then all of a sudden, say the guitarist plays a really loud chord and pops up over 0, that's bad. And so, there's more risk of that happening when you're recording just a few decibels below 0. So you don't want to be recording at negative 4, negative 3, because it's too easy to cross over above 0. You want to keep it down a little. At the same time, you don't want it to go down too low. I mean, you're thinking, well, if I can go down to -96, why don't I have it recording around -30? Then there's no chance I'll go over 0. That's good logic. The only drawback is that down at the very lowest levels, that's where you get some background noise, some hum, some distortion, some hiss, just anything background room noise. So the difference between that low level of noise, which is maybe at, let's say it's at -70, and say your recording's at -30, that difference from -30 down to -70 between your stuff and the background noise, that's what's called your signal to noise ratio, and there's a 40 decibel gap. And so you want a bigger spread between your stuff and the background noise if possible. And so since there's no way to make the background noise really disappear, it's just kind of naturally part of the environment you record in, no matter how quiet you try to get. You can't make that disappear, so the best solution to make a bigger signal to noise ratio is to raise the volume of your own recording. So you want to get it away from the background noise, but you want to be careful not getting too close to the upper limit of 0. And so it's a fine balancing line. And so I always aim for, like I say, -15 maybe at the low end, -10, -8. That's probably a nice sweet spot that works all around. Okay, so now let's set up and let's do a test recording. Okay, so let's talk for a few minutes about placement of the audio recorder in front of your sound of your source for the sound. Okay, so we're going to go with a bass amp right here. If you're miking an amplifier, bass amp, guitar amp, whatever, with one of these, it's fairly conventional. You don't have to put it right up against the amp. Okay, so maybe back 18 inches, 2 feet, something like that is good. Now I've got this one down fairly low. That shouldn't matter that it's low. Some people will use other mounting devices. They might use a beer box. Set the recorder on the beer box so it's a little more level with the center of the amp. That's a personal preference. I think if you have one of these at home, try recording with the audio recorder in different positions. See if you hear a difference. I don't think you will. So the only thing I would suggest, let's say that you're setting this on a beer box or on a milk crate or on a chair or something like that. If it's a hard, smooth surface, you might want to put a towel down of some sort, and probably won't make a difference, but you never know, especially with a bass amp. There can be a lot of rattling, vibrations and stuff like that. And so if for some reason this is shaking a little bit because you're recording at really high volumes, I guess, that's probably not the best thing. So, like I say, I don't think it'll make a difference, but it can't hurt. And also, some people that don't have one of these little tripods, I mean, this is probably $10 at Walmart, who knows. Anyway, some people will just put the recorder right on a box like that. Because your sound is kind of coming across the towel and hitting the microphones at the top, I think I would rather see it where the microphones aren't being affected by possible sound dampening or reflections from the towel. Stick it out a little further. Or if you have something soft that you can, raise it up in the air a little bit, that's probably a good idea too. But like I say, this is one of these little tripods is pretty cheap. Other options, I've seen people use camera tripods, and the mounting device in this is actually the same as for a video camera. It's a little high, but that's okay. I've also seen people use, this is a mic stand for a kick drum, and it's got a different size head on it, but you can get adapters or different size heads, so this could mount right on your kick drum stand if you have one of those. Now, I want to talk very quickly about different types of instruments. Now, I did mention earlier, I think, that this has condenser microphones in it. There's lots of different types of microphones, like half a dozen, but the two main ones are condenser mics and dynamic mics. And normally, a condenser mic is generally a little bit more expensive. It's a little better for fine detail, so especially for singing. It's better for instruments that have higher pitches. It usually captures a little bit better upper registers, upper frequencies. And condenser mics also are better for if you don't have sharp, sudden, abrupt noise. So a lot of instruments, yeah, the condenser mics. I've got another video where I go into this in a lot more detail. I think it's in the review of the Spark microphones. So I'll put a link to that video down underneath, and you can, if you've got time, watch that video if you want to learn a little bit more about microphones in general. But anyway, here's a couple examples of dynamic mics. And so these ones, a couple Shores, there's a Sennheiser. These dynamic mics are more frequently going to be used for drums, guitar amps, bass amps. And so in those cases, because they are pretty much indestructible, they're impervious to very loud, sudden, sharp transients, a lot of people will try to get the real growl of the mic, especially with a guitar amp, or underneath a snare drum or something like that. And so in that case, the microphone will probably be positioned very, 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 very close to the amp. So it might be set up like this, just an inch or so away. But you don't want to do that with an audio recorder that has a condenser microphone. So, if you're worried that, maybe you shouldn't be using a condenser mic to record on a guitar amp or something like that, don't worry about that. They're still good. It's a great, condenser mics are quite good. And this will definitely work. Condenser mics are good all-purpose mics. It's just you don't want to have it really close so it gets, a sudden blast of sound that possibly damages the insides of the microphone. Okay? Anyway, that's all. I'll talk about that for now. So basically I would just set this up, 18 inches, 2 feet away from the amplifier, and then check all your, get an instrument out, check your levels, make sure that you're not peaking, and we'll talk about that again in a minute, and go ahead and record. Okay, so let's do a test recording here. So we'll get the guitar, and what I'm going to use here, this is kind of an old amp, it's not a good amp at all, but it'll do. Bass amp, bass guitar, acoustic bass guitar. Okay, so we'll put the recorder on pause record so we can test the levels. Whoa, way too hot. That's peaking at a very low level. Oh yeah, the sensitivity was on high, so I just switched it over to low. Turning it up a little bit. Okay, so that looks like it's pretty good right now. I'm getting fairly clean, fairly loud levels, but I'm not seeing the red lights coming on, which would indicate that I'm going over the 0 decibel mark. So let's try and record something really simple. I'm not a bass player, so we're not going to do anything fancy. Okay, and I was looking at that as I recorded. Didn't see the red lights come on, so I think we're good. So I'm going to stop it, turn off the amp, and let's take this to the computer and see how it turned out. Okay, so now that we have an audio file recorded on our little Sony recorder, let's plug it into the computer and do some editing. But first we will copy it from the recorder to the laptop. And so I've got this folder here, it's empty right now, called Remote Recording. So I'll bring up Windows Explorer. There's my recorder, Sony Hi-Fi. We'll look in the first folder. There's our baseline photo. And then we Control-C, go into the desktop, into the remote recording folder, Control-V to paste it, and now it is copied into our folder. And so at this point we can disconnect our audio recorder. And let's load up Audacity, which I mentioned is free software for audio editing, to check our file. And I don't see, oh, you know what? I bet you I don't have it on this laptop. So let's quickly find it and download it. download Audacity. Yep, there we go. So it's being brought up right now. And like I say, this works on a Mac, it works on Windows. It's free, it's simple, and basically we're going to use it to double check and make sure that we are not peaking and that the file is not too soft, not too loud. We could cut out any extra space at the beginning and end of the file to make it a little bit more portable, more smaller file size, just easier for sharing and transferring. Okay, so quickly installing that. And next, there it is, let's launch it. Simple as that. Okay, so here we are. So we're going to go into File, we're going to go Open, we are going to go onto the desktop, into my remote recording folder. There's the file, so we'll double click, open it up, and here we go. So let's, right now you can see up here, there's a couple different tools that you can select, and right now I'm on this vertical line that looks like a capital I. Let's put, if you click in different parts of the file, you can place it at different parts, and I can press spacebar to play, or I can play up here. Okay, that probably didn't sound very loud on the cameras because I had the laptop volume down, but we can highlight and delete, press the delete key, because all this stuff you can see, you know, let's turn my volume up just a little bit to make that easier. Okay. Okay, so all this stuff is just me talking, we don't need that, so I can click, drag across, let go of the button, that highlights that section, and I just press the delete key on my computer. So now I have this file, and you can you should be able to change the scale used here. Nope, that's not the way to do it. I forget how to do it now. I don't use this that often. There we go. So we have a waveform scale now, and you can drag and drop this and make it a little bit bigger. And this gives you a better idea. You can look, see, kind of the tops of my audio here, they all look like they're probably around the -10 level. And same thing with the bottoms here. Basically you want to check in 4 spots. You want to check across the top of this file and across the bottom of this channel, I guess. That's probably my left signal. And then across the top and across the bottom of your right signal. Right channel, and make sure that none of those are actually touching the lines. If that's the case, you've probably crossed that 0 decibel threshold at some point, you've peaked or distorted, and so your best bet, just record it again. You know, why give your producer something that's not suitable material to work with? But in this case, it looks like we're all good. We haven't crossed over the levels. We're not way down at -30 or something. This looks like a good strong signal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go save this, and I will export it. That's the right way to do it. And so into remote recording, I'm going to call this good copy of baseline. Save it. And, you know, there's lots of settings here, but basically we're going to save it as a WAV file. And then once it's saved, we can close this. I'm not even going to save my changes. I'm going to close my browser. I'm going to go into remote recording. You can see this. Let's play it. Okay, so that's working. Now the only drawback is you can see that I accidentally saved that as an MP3. And the preference would be save it as a WAV quality file before you're going to share it. Okay? I'm not going to bother going and redo that. So, Dropbox. Dropbox is free if you have a small account, a personal account. When you sign up for Dropbox, you'll get 2 gigs free. Quite a lot of people have used, hundreds of millions of people use Dropbox. If for some reason you don't want to use Dropbox, there's another company, sync.com. It's Canadian, that does the same sort of approach. The advantage of sync.com is that they are more secure. They are very big into encryption and stuff like that. The only thing that's a little bit slower downloading and uploading stuff, because Sync has to encrypt stuff for you. So we'll stick with Dropbox. And for Dropbox, where's my Dropbox icon? Right down here. Okay, so inside Dropbox, you can see that I have this folder right here, and I have a couple of different folders in here. So let's create a new one. We will go up, new folder, and I will call this Share with Nick. So let's say that Nick is at the other end and he's doing all the audio editing. Then I can go into my remote recording, click on that, copy it, then go into Share with Nick, Control V, paste it. Okay, and then with Dropbox, Nick doesn't have a copy of this folder yet, so I can go into Dropbox, I can click on my web version, dropbox.com, and it brings up all my stuff, and then Share with Nick. I'm going to share the folder, invite people, and I don't know Nick's email off the top of my head, but let's pretend it's something like this. And then you would share the folder, click, email gets sent out to him, he gets it on the other end, he opens his Dropbox, downloads it, and then he's all set to go for editing. And so really that's how simple it all is. So your biggest worries for all this whole process, first of all, you want to have a recorder, have an audio recorder of some type, and get something. Your budget's going to have a huge effect on this decision, but try not to go for a cheap low-end one. Try to, if you can, if you're putting music out there, you probably want to try and invest in a little bit of quality. So something like this, if you can afford it, is going to give you a pretty good signal. It's not the same as being in a proper studio. No way. And unless you get really comfortable with buying a better quality microphone, you can spend the same money that you do on this on a single microphone, or much more, but you could get a pretty good, decent quality microphone like that, like one of the Blue Sparks or something like that. And then you can run that into an external sound card. You can run it into your software, Audacity, or some other, if you're into more professional software like Pro Tools, Cubase, something like that, then you can do some editing before you share it. But really, this is an effective solution for sharing and collaborating with someone in a remote location. And say that you wanted to do some create a video for some reason, and so you're doing a music video, you want to have that other person in the video. So what you can do is, if they happen to have a smartphone that has decent quality recording settings, like a new Android device, new iPhone, something like that. Some of them now have 4K film, 4K video, and so you could also get that person to have a friend stand there with the phone, do a recording while they're playing, and then you could dump the recording from the phone into the Dropbox folder, also share that with your producer, and then the producer might be able to take that footage and give it to an audio editor, a film editor, video editor, or do the editing of a video themselves. And so, there's all sorts of possibilities for collaborating, even though you don't happen to be anywhere close to each other. Okay, so let's take another example. Let's say that this time we are trying to record an instrument like a flute, or trumpet, or something like that, or vocals probably being the most common. So what I have here is I have a standard tripod that I bought that, it's probably $80 US, something like that, and it's fairly tall, 5 feet high, and it's also got this center section that'll raise up and down, so you can get it so that the audio recorder is in level with your mouth. And then this device, this is called a pop filter, and this was, I don't know, $15 off eBay, or off Amazon. And all you do with this is placed between your mouth and the recorder, and that's used to prevent something called plosives, like bursts of air as you're singing from hitting the microphone directly. They make a little bit of a noise in the recording process. So this lets your sound get through without the plosives, and you can learn more about those in other videos. And this pop filter isn't necessary, but if you're doing vocals, it's, you know, like I say, it's $15, get one. It definitely improves your quality a little bit. Not so necessary with instruments. Okay, so normally what I would do at this point with vocals, what you want to do is set your recording levels probably a little bit lower. You want to get fairly close, you know, say about 6 inches away when you're doing singing, and sing directly into it. Don't sing off like to the side. Now, the drawback of being that close, you do have to monitor your levels a little bit more, but there's this thing called the proximity effect, which as you get closer to a microphone with vocals, it often makes them sound a little bit richer. So instead of being way out here and having your input level up, then it's better to be closer and having the input level a little bit further down. Okay, so you would just sing into it, do the whole same process that we're going to go through. And if you're doing other instruments that maybe are a little bit lower, like say you're working with a saxophone, obviously the tripod's going to be a little bit lower. Let's say you're recording a ukulele. You know, something like that. You probably want to have the recorder down a lot lower, and then the ukulele at the same level. Anyway, that's a very basic setup for about $100, and should work well for vocal recording. Okay, here's two things I should have covered a little bit better earlier in the video. One's a really brief mention, and the other one's a bigger issue. Okay, first of all, with sync.com, when I talked about them as being an alternative to Dropbox, I should point out a lot of people use Dropbox, and with free accounts, at the moment they have 2 gigs, and a lot of people fill that up with stuff already. So if you're sharing bigger audio files, maybe video files, maybe project files, you may need a little bit more space. So that's one more compelling reason to try out sync.com if your Dropbox is full. Sync.com, the free account, gives you 5 gigabytes worth of space, and so maybe you won't use it for anything else except sharing music with a certain other producer across the country. But if both of you have a sync.com account, then you may not be bumping up against your storage limits in Dropbox quite so easily. So think about that. The other thing I need to talk about that's much more important is synchronizing the timing. Okay, so let's say that you are, you're a producer. You have a drum track and a bass line synchronized together. You've got that in a file. Next in line is either a guitarist or a vocalist. I'm going to use a guitarist in all these examples in the next few minutes. Vocalist, same deal, same approach. Okay, with the guitarist is going to have to try to play along with the timing of the drum kit that's already laid down. Drum kit, almost always first instrument to be recorded in a multi-track session because it's the foundation for the timing of the entire song. So you can't simultaneously work on stuff. You have to share back and forth to give timing clues back and forth to each other. So the guitarist can't think, okay, well, I'm just going to play along, I know my part really well, play it out of the blue, send it to the producer, and hope the timing matches a drum track. Doesn't work. So the producer has to share the drum track with the guitarist. Guitarist is going to play along with it, and then the timing is going to work. Okay, so how do we do this? Number one, let's assume that the producer already has a drum track. That's kind of the key thing. You may also have a bass line, but that's not relevant. You export what you have, the bed track, as an MP3. I say MP3 because it doesn't have to be high quality. This is not part of the production. Export it as an MP3, share it to the talent. The talent is the person singing, playing guitar, whatever. So the talent gets this file, puts it onto a laptop, a tablet, MP3 player, smartphone, whatever. And so the talent is going to have that MP3, they'll put headphones on, and they'll play along with it. And then you've got the timing of their part matching the timing of the project file. Some important things to think about. First of all, you can't play it out loud because then you're going to hear it on the recording of the guitar. So the talent has to have headphones. If you have over-the-ear headphones, cheap ones may not work out that well because sometimes the sound will bleed out from the ears. It'll get into the recording on your audio recorder. So if you're going with, normal, traditional, old-style headphones over the ears, make sure you have a good set. Make sure, if necessary, keep the volume turned down a bit so there is less risk of bleed. The other alternative, earbuds. Go in the ear. They play at a lower volume and sound just as loud, and there's less bleed from them generally. Almost all the time, earbuds seem to work better for me. So that's an option, but again, keep the volumes down so you're not hearing music bleeding out. The next thing, if you're the talent, let's look at that from your point of view for a minute. So you've got the music, you've got the MP3 that you're going to play along with on your player, you've got the proper headphones or earbuds, and you're going to be playing along. First thing, get rid of background noise. Try to record at a time when there's not going to be a whole lot of other stuff in the background. If you live in a house beside a freeway and you can hear cars going by all the time, maybe what you should do is go to a friend's place that's a little bit quieter. And you'll have to make sure there's no TVs in the background, no radios, no people talking. In a quiet environment, you may have to turn off a fridge temporarily, stuff like that, because you'd be amazed at how much stuff these audio recorders pick up. So the more quiet, the better. Maybe you'll have to do it at night when things are less active in the apartment around you, but, then you might wake up the neighbors. Okay, so from the talent's point of view, this is important. The file that you're going to send to your producer, all it's going to have on it is your instrument, whether that's guitar, trumpet, flute, voice, vocals, whatever. So your producer is going to have a hard time synchronizing that to the music. Now, if it's something simple, like you're singing voices, you're playing obvious chords on the guitar, it won't take too long. But it's nice to be able to give the producer timing clues or cues to make his or her job more easy. So, okay, let's go back to the point of view of the producer. If you're going to be sending an MP3 to the talent, even if they're not playing at the beginning of the song, what I usually like to do is temporarily add an extra 2-bar intro to the song. And so what happens, the talent that's sitting there playing, if they have to play on the downbeat, the first beat of the song, that's fine. Now they know when it's going to come in. But even if they don't, what the talent is going to do is, as they start hearing in their headphones that beat, those first, like say we're playing 4/4 time, so 2 bars, 8 beats. So they're going to hear the first beat, get them to count out loud, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, ready. Then they start playing. Okay, so what's going to happen is when you get that file from them, you're going to hear their 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And you're going to be able to line it up on the timeline of the project a lot more quickly, make sure stuff's in the right place. Now, you don't have to have this, and I think once you've had some practice at doing this, you'll get to the point where it's kind of unnecessary, and you'll find it's actually pretty quick and easy to do this. But I know that when you're first starting out, trying to line stuff up perfectly is incredibly frustrating. And any producer that's been doing this for a while has done this thousands of times now. And I don't just do it in music, I have to do it in video editing all the time, where you're trying to synchronize an audio file to someone's open mouth on screen or something like that. Okay, so you'll get used to it, but the thing is, you can't just drag it in at like the expanded view when you can see the whole project all at once. You can't slide it back and forth at that level of detail. You have to be zoomed in a whole lot more to get that timing just perfect. So quite often, if I'm editing video, I have to be down to 1/30th of a second, one frame, to make sure that it's lined up well, or else it looks a little bit unnatural. Okay, so as long as the producer puts those 2 extra fake temporary intro bars into the track, and then as long as the talent, as the recording, they start going 2, 3, 4, and that's going to give the cues that the producer will need to line things up. And instead of saying 2, 3, 4, another thing you can do is take a pen, tap it on your music stand, or snap your fingers, because that's a really sharp transient. That's really helps a lot when you're trying to line things up perfectly in your project. And you know, someday if you're doing this a lot and it's working out well and you're getting projects done, it may be smart for the talent to eventually learn multi-track recording. You can use free software such as Audacity. You can use cheap but very powerful software like Reaper. Reaper's quite cheap and easy to use. Okay, so if the talent can learn to use that software and has a normal microphone hooked up to the laptop or whatever's doing the recording, then you can actually arm a bunch of tracks within a session, a project, and make a whole bunch of recordings and then send the whole project file back to the producer. And that way, you know, it's already in a nice format, it's already lined up. But, you know, that's a big step. If the talent hasn't done a whole lot of work with that sort of stuff, let's keep it simple, work with these audio recorders, and somehow you can always make it happen. Okay, I think that's everything. So now, if you're a producer, you want to work with someone on the other side of the country, and they're not really familiar with how to collaborate from different parts of the world, send them a copy of this video, tell them to pick up an audio recorder, and you can start working on music together. You can work with people from all around the world, okay? Also, if you want to take it to the next level, I have quite a few other audio recording tutorials on my website. I've got tutorials about multi-track recording. I've got tutorials about microphones, stuff about basic audio engineering theory, like, you know, decibel measurement systems, sample rate, bit depth, stuff like that. And I have other tutorials on things like reverb and, you know, effects, all sorts of stuff, okay? You can find them all at djbolivia.ca/videos, so check them out. Bookmark that page if you can. Subscribe to me here on YouTube. And thanks so much for taking the time to watch. Good luck with your music.